Hey guys, welcome! In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build an amazing life from scratch. So basically what we're going to be covering today is the overarching principles of self-actualization, which basically just means actualizing your full potential as a human being. One of the most amazing things about being a human being and incarnating in a human body is that we have infinite potential for growth. You see, the thing with, if you incarnated as a giraffe or as a kangaroo, you would just be stuck being a giraffe for your entire lifetime. The giraffe doesn't really have a very high potential, save for how high his neck can reach to eat the leaves. But human beings have this potential for infinite growth. And this is actually a basic need. This is a very core drive. So when I was 16 years old, all I would do is just play video games, smoke weed, masturbate to porn, and I felt like I was wasting my life. There was like this deep feeling in my heart like I have this infinite potential. This was like an intuition that I had. I could be doing so much more with my life. I could be having a much deeper and more profound experience of life where I feel like I'm actually engaged with life. But I felt like I was just pissing that whole potential down the toilet because nobody taught me the principles of self-actualization. I didn't even know that this existed. I didn't know it was possible for me to consciously grow myself and to take proactive action to visualize a high noble potential that I see myself, my highest version of myself, to visualize that and then to actually take steps to embody that and make that real. I didn't know that's what I should have been, that's what I was supposed to be doing. Until I felt really depressed because all I did was play video games all day, and I felt so depressed that I was searching for advice online, and I discovered the idea of self-actualization. And once I realized that this is a possibility, then I basically devoted my entire being to learning the principles. How can a human being build an amazing life for themselves from scratch? Now, the first question you might be asking is, okay, what is an amazing life? What does that even mean? So, according to my contemplation, based on my intuition, based on absorbing tons of books and lots of data and information, being very involved in this field for years, basically I've decided, this is my hypothesis, what an amazing life is using your natural gifts and talents to inspire, entertain, or educate others. That's one facet of an amazing life. Another facet is having a full experience of life. Feeling like you're squeezing the full juice out of every single moment. And nothing is being left on the table. You're actually getting the full life experience that you came here to get. And also, as another tenet of an amazing life, I think having a deep understanding of reality, how life works on a very big picture level, but also on a more minute detailed level. So understanding how the whole universe works, I think that's very important just to live excellently, to have those deep penetrating insights to understanding what reality is, why it's here, what's going on here. It's a lot more complicated than we're led to believe by our culture. When we're born into the world, it's this magical, beautiful place with all kinds of different sounds and sights and smells and tastes and experiences and thoughts. We're in this beautiful dream world, but nobody really explains to us what it actually is. And actually what they do is our culture tells us what reality is, but they make it seem like it's just not really a big deal. Like, yeah, you're a monkey, you evolved from monkeys, you live on a giant rock that's floating in space, where yeah, we were revolving around the sun, whatever. Yeah, we have all these countries, this whole thing is going on with our society, civilization, but don't think too much about it. Just go to school, do your homework, and hopefully get a job, basically, is what we're taught about life. And I found that that wasn't very sufficient. That wasn't enough for me to actually understand the beauty and profundity of life. So having a deep understanding, I think, is very important. And we're going to be talking about that right now. So that's what an amazing life is. Let's go more deeper into this point. So what does that mean to use your natural gifts and talents to inspire, educate, or entertain others? Well, I think like human beings are like ants. And if you look at an ant colony, every single ant has its own specialized role. Certain ants are naturally just bigger and bulkier. Those are like the soldier ants. Those are the ants that leave the ant hill. They go out and they search for food and they protect the ant hill. Some ants are better at some ants. I read that certain ants, they actually use their bodies to form like an infrastructure in the anthill, so that like they are like a ant coat hanger, and other ants like hang things on this one ant's body. So this one ant's purpose is to be a human coat hanger. And these ants have all different roles. The queen lays the eggs, some ants take care of the larva, other ants make the food. So all the ants have their own unique niches and specializations so that the whole colony can thrive. And human beings are very, very similar to this. When I was younger, I thought that every single human being was pretty much the same, and that we all had the same blueprint, the same natural strengths and weaknesses. So when other people didn't think the way that I thought, like I remember when I would eat pizza in school, some kids would pick all the toppings off of their pizza, and I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, why are you picking the toppings off of your pizza? Isn't that ruining the experience? And this is my mindset for my whole life. I didn't understand that other people have different minds than me. I thought everyone should think like me. But as I got older and I started learning about psychology and personality types, about strengths like multiple intelligences, I've learned many different systems where basically human beings have different strengths and weaknesses. And this is one of the keys to building an amazing life from scratch. You need to know what you're good at. What's your class? So I've been playing some Elden Ring. I love like these, these fantasy games where in the beginning you have to pick a class. So when you pick a class at the beginning of the game, you have certain strengths and weaknesses. If you pick the mage, you're going to have more intelligence and you're going to have better spell casting abilities. Whereas if you pick the warrior, you're going to have more strength and you can wield big weapons. So each class has its own pros and cons. The mages, they're very powerful. They cast powerful spells and they can cast them from far away, but they're also very weak and fragile, right? They die in 2 hits. Whereas the opposite, the warrior, he has a big weapon and he has lots of armor, but the problem is he has to run up to you to hit you, so he doesn't have as much range. So in life, as human beings, we have different classes. And it's important to realize that you have a unique set of strengths that is important, first of all, for you to identify what are your strengths. So I recommend taking a personality test like the Myers-Briggs personality test on 16personalities.com. I'll link that in the description. Take that test, figure out what's your type, read the description. Also, I like using astrology as well to start to understand the different energies that are part of this being's blueprint. So my girlfriend's really into astrology. She picked the astrologer class in Elden Ring. But astrology is a great system for learning how you work, what your motivations are. So I'll link Cafe Astrology as well. Also, I recommend taking the VIA Strengths Test by Martin Seligman. I will link that in the description as well. You have to put in your email, but then you can discover what are your top 5 strengths. And I talk about all of this in a lot more detail in my program, the Crystal Clear Purpose Program. If you're interested, you can check that out as well. But basically, you want to figure out what's your class, what inspires you, what excites you. Because when you get passionate or excited about a certain facet of life, maybe it's marketing, maybe it's making art, maybe it's sewing, maybe it's taking care of plants, maybe it's engineering, maybe it's writing literature, maybe it's watching movies. If you get really excited, like inspired, when you participate in a certain aspect of life, that is an indicator from universal intelligence that has to do with what your class is, with what your blueprint is. The universe wants you to move in that direction because the infinite intelligence knows that if you move in that direction, you'll be capitalizing on your natural strengths. So for example, just in my life personally, one of my natural strengths is absorbing lots of information quickly and building this kind of big picture map of the world and how it works. I integrate all kinds of different perspectives into my worldview, like science, personal development, history, even a lot of politics, spirituality, metaphysics, law of attraction, new age, religious stuff. I really weave together a lot of different things because I just like understanding on the big picture level what is going on in the universe. And also, I like talking about it and explaining it. So those are my personal strengths. I'm naturally a pretty good explainer and I'm good at understanding abstract topics. So when I go to read a new book, I get excited. Or when I go to make a new video, I get excited. Because the universe is almost telling me, okay, Adam, this is the direction that you should move in. This is how you will be of most use to humanity. This is how you can contribute to the awakening and the uplifting of all of humanity in this specific niche. So for me, it has to do with explaining topics like this. Right? This is very useful for a lot of people. But you may not be like me. For example, you might be more interested in business and marketing. Something that interests me too, but maybe you're more interested in how to run ads on YouTube, for example, or on Facebook. If that's what really excites you and you're passionate about that and it's cool and it's interesting, then understand that that area of life is something that is going to capitalize on your natural strengths, whether you're more of a thinker or more of a feeler, you're more extroverted or more introverted, whether you're more organized, you're more of a systematizer, versus whether you're more creative and abstract. So this is very important to understand. Then once you know what your gifts are, you want to actualize them, you want to strengthen them. So when you play a video game, you level up your character you have those skill trees, right? And you put points into the skill tree, you gain experience, and the better you get at a skill tree, the more points you put into it, the more payback you get, the stronger your character gets. And those points at the top of the skill tree, those are the ones that are super overpowered and they just break the entire game, where you're like a god, basically. You're super powerful. Your spells do like infinite damage. So it's exactly the same in life. You want to figure out what's your class, what's your starting class, okay? And then you want to start researching, how do I make a build, okay? How do I actually invest points into the skill tree? Which skill trees exist, first of all? How do I invest points into them? How do I gain experience so that I can get to the end of the tree? This is the mastery process. How do I consistently put in effort in this specific area so that I can build myself up to the end of the tree? And once I level up my character and get to the highest point of the skill tree, then I'll be using my natural gifts and talents and actualizing their full potential. And this will help me to inspire, entertain, and just add value to existence. That's what's going to make you fulfilled in your soul. This is like an infinite growth process. The mastery process can last your entire life. For the rest of my life, I'm going to be reading books, understanding how society works, how history works, how politics work, how science works, how spirituality works, how energy works. And I'm going to be putting that together in my mind and explaining it on camera. And over time, that's just going to get better and better and better and better. And maybe my character is only like level 30 right now, but eventually I'm going to get to level 100. And the higher you get, the more powerful your character becomes, and the more fulfilled you are with life. Why do you think video games are so addicting? Because they take the internal drives of the human being to start from scratch, right? You start in the dungeon with no armor, no weapons. You're just like a weak piece of shit character, and you die to everything. And there's a progression system. You slowly get better and better and better. You improve until eventually you overcome challenges. You learn through experience, through trial and error. You get better. And it's so addicting because that's the natural human drive towards self-actualization. See, the problem is our society right now, with our education system, even our marketing, we're not really supporting the human being's natural drive towards self-actualization, becoming the best version of yourself and discovering your natural talents and actualizing them. This is not taught in school at all. At all. If I was a teacher, for example, in school, if I were to restructure the education system, what I would do is I would say, okay, so there's a class, there's 20 kids in this class. Every single one of these kids has a different blueprint. They have different strengths. They have different proclivities and inclinations and passions and interests. How can I figure out what the kid is actually interested in, what they're good at, whether they're more of a feeler or a thinker, whether they're more extroverted or introverted, more intuitive or more sensing? How can I figure out what they're good at, and how can I feed that? How can I feed their passion and their curiosity and their creativity? And that will actually make them an extremely effective worker in the future, because you got to understand the education system right now is not designed to help the kids self-actualize and realize their highest potential, because this information is not commonly known by the politicians, by the Ministry of Education, even just by your parents, by the common person. We don't really know what that even means to actualize your fullest potential. And very slowly, very gradually, we're starting to learn. We're getting better very slowly, but basically you got to understand the education that you went through was like from the Stone Ages. It's extremely out of date. You weren't taught at all even simple things like how to meditate, how to be aware of your emotions and of your thoughts, how to process feelings of anger and guilt and disgust and shame and sadness. How do I even process my emotions? That I had to learn that by myself. I had to buy a book. I had to do the practice. I had to go take a course on my own. So in the future, the education system will help you do that. But this is kind of a rant, but the point that I'm making is figure out what class you are, because you weren't taught this in school. Find out what your class is, and how do we actually put points into the right skill trees to get to the end. All right, and that's what we're going to be talking about right now, how to actually do this. Now, back to what I was saying before. So I remembered what I was saying. The drive towards self-actualization is a natural human need. All beings naturally want to become the highest version of themselves. Everyone feels this pull of growth. Some people, I hear them say, "Oh, you're doing personal development. It's a scam. Personal development is just for people who don't accept themselves as they are. Personal development is only for people who, they don't love themselves, so they just want to get better." But you're not understanding that the drive towards growth is very natural. Every single person feels this. If you really want to accept yourself, you also need to accept the part of yourself that needs to grow and to become the best version of yourself. But right now, our society gets you stuck around these belonging, esteem needs. So if you can't satisfy your food needs, if you can't satisfy your safety and belonging needs and your esteem needs, then it's going to be difficult to fully actualize your self-actualization needs. However, it's still possible, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. All right, let's erase this. All right, so the first step of building an amazing life from scratch is, first of all, number one, recognizing the need for growth. There is a deep need for you to grow. Otherwise, you will not feel satisfied in your life unless you are striving towards becoming the highest potential. See, I think every human being has like a highest self, a highest potential that they could become. And if you're not striving towards that potential, then you're going to feel deep in your heart like something's wrong. Something's wrong with me. I'm wasting my life. Something's wrong with society. Something's wrong with my life. You're just not going to feel good. It's a terrible feeling. And then you're going to do everything in your power to distract yourself from doing personal development, and just to distract yourself from from feeling sad that you're wasting your life. So you're going to be eating pizza, playing video games, watching porn like I was doing when I was 16. Unless you actually feed that part of yourself that wants to grow, you're going to stagnate, and you're going to create all kinds of dysfunction in your relationships. They're going to go to shit. Your health is going to go to shit. Your money situation is going to go to shit. Your spiritual connection to life, your actual ability to enjoy life is going to go to shit. So if you're not growing yourself proactively, then you're playing the game wrong, is all I'm going to say. You're playing the game, but you need to level up your character. You can't stay at the same level, or else you can't progress. Now, also recognize that our society is not really helping you grow. You need to grow proactively. Our society is it's not evil or bad. It's just at a certain stage of development, and there are many stages above that I'm trying to get you to. So if you understand like spiral dynamics or developmental psychology, you understand that human beings naturally go through a set of stages, right? Let's see, humans go through about, let's say, 5 or 6 stages on their way to maturity, psychological maturity. our society, the center of gravity of our society is around stage 4, right? Stage 3 or 4. And if you went to the Middle East, for example, or if you went to like a Polynesian island, they'd be at like stage 2. So many places in the world would love to be where we are now in the West at stage 4, but recognize that still stage 4 is not the highest stage. You can actually grow above that. Right? If you want to learn more about how this works, you can check out my video about spiral dynamics that I'll link in the description. But basically, once you get to the peak of our society will help you get to stage 4, but it will not help you get to stage 5, 6, and even 7 and beyond. And these stages, what they represent is the raising of consciousness, the ability to take on more and more perspectives, having a deeper, more complex understanding of life and how it works, having a more full experience of life, being more inclusive and compassionate. That's what these stages represent. So our society is going to get you stuck at about stage 4, and that's okay. That's where we're at now collectively. On a societal level, it takes sometimes hundreds of years to grow from 1 to 2. Then it might take another 100 years to grow from 3 to 4. So on a collective level, we grow through these stages very slowly. But on a personal level, it might take you 5 years to go from stage 3 to stage 4, and then another 10 years to go from 4 to 5. But there's ways to accelerate this process where you can zoom up these developmental stages and you can basically shortcut, whoops, I thought the pyramid was going to be on the other side. You can shortcut the amount of time that you need to grow by doing practices like meditation, psychedelics, reading a lot, learning, discovering your life purpose, being creative. We're going to talk about how to do that. But basically what I'm telling you in this video is how to shortcut yourself up these stages to get to level 5, 6, and 7. Now keep in mind, once your society gets you to about stage 4, it's not going to help you get any higher. This is like the center of gravity. So if it's a center of gravity, imagine the energy of the culture is like pulling you up when you're a kid and you're at 1 or 2 still. It's pulling you up. But if you try and go beyond stage 4, beyond the center of gravity, it's actually going to be pulling you down, back down to stage 4. So a lot of people who first get into spirituality, personal development, they feel like their friends are holding them down, or their parents are holding them down, or the education system is holding them down. The reason why you feel that way is because you've peaked at stage 4, you're trying to move into stage 5 and 6, but you're realizing the society's not helping you because the society's at stage 4. Now, this need for growth usually arises from a deep-seated suffering in your soul. And usually what happens is you're suffering so deeply, something is just wrong. Either maybe a girl breaks your heart, or maybe you're really overweight and you have stomach problems and you're in a lot of pain, you have a terrible body image, maybe you have crippling anxiety or depression. Yes, our society has many dysfunctional things that create all these sufferings in your being. And this suffering needs to be processed and it needs to be handled and made healthy. Normally what we do when we go through life, we absorb all these traumas from a dysfunctional system, which again is okay that the system's dysfunctional. It's not that the people at the top are like evil and they're trying to keep you down. Nobody's trying to keep you down. It's just like we're just not conscious enough yet to build an amazing system. We're working on it. Be patient, it takes time. Might take 100 or 200 years. But you've absorbed firsthand all of the bullshit from our culture. We've had probably a very traumatizing education process. Nobody taught you how to manage your sexual energy, how to date, what to do with your life. Nobody taught you how to create a direction for yourself, how to create a career for yourself. So you're working at Starbucks, making minimum wage. Meanwhile, all the prices of everything is all going up and you can't afford it. So there's a lot of trauma you're experiencing and you're suffering, basically. This is like on the hero's journey. The hero is always forced to go on the journey. The hero doesn't go on the journey because he wants to. Like in The Lord of the Rings, Frodo was just chilling in the Shire, drinking beer with his friends, smoking pipe weed, eating food, exploring the trees, having a good time in his life. And then all of a sudden, his uncle Bilbo puts on the ring, disappears, and runs away. And then Gandalf is telling him that this is some evil ring from the Dark Lord Sauron, and somebody's gonna have to take it to Mordor to be destroyed. Frodo's like, I don't fucking want to go to Mordor. That sounds dangerous. There's black riders, there's trolls and goblins. I don't want to leave my comfy home in the Shire. But the way the story goes is the hero denies the call, but eventually the suffering gets so bad where you have no choice but to go on the journey. You're almost pushed out the door. In The Lord of the Rings, the Black Riders were coming to Frodo's house because Gollum gave the Nazgul his direction. Basically, he gave him this house address, Shire Baggins, and Frodo's like, fuck, they're gonna come here. I have to leave now. So he was forced to go on the journey. In the same way, when you're suffering in your life, you have no choice but to self-actualize and to take the path of growth, to venture into the unknown. And lucky for you, this video here is actually going to show you how to navigate this unknown path, how to actually get to Mordor and destroy the ring. Because I've been there and it's fucking hard to get there. You need to find the right guides, read the right books, listen to the right teachers. So that's what I've done, and I'm showing you how to do that now. So once you realize that there's a need for growth and you're suffering, then you need to take 100% responsibility for your life. 100% responsibility means that every single problem in my life is my responsibility. I don't know how to socialize and how to attract a beautiful girl, let's say. That's my problem. That's not society's problem. That's not social media's problem. That's not the women today are so shallow, that's why they don't like me. It's not, the problem isn't external. The problem is my problem. It's my responsibility. If, let's say, girls aren't attracted to me, that's because I suck. And that's okay. I have the possibility to learn. But we're going to get to that in just a second. So once you take 100% responsibility, you realize, okay, now I need to actually do the research. So nobody is going to grow for me. Someone's not going to come to my house and give me a lecture for how to meditate. I need to learn that myself. I need to take responsibility for my emotional state, for my money situation, for my relationships, for my health, for my lack of direction. Even things like, society, inflation, let's say the prices of food is going up, right? It's easy to blame the government or to blame some other figure out there. But hey, okay, sure, maybe the system isn't working for you, but still that's your responsibility. You still have to deal with that. And yeah, it might seem like for young people, today's a very difficult time to, let's say, buy a house, right? Housing prices are through the roof. But still, there's a lot of lucrative opportunities in business, especially on the internet. Never before in any time in history has it been as easy as it is today to start an online business about what you're actually passionate about. So you can do what you love for a living. And all you have to do is just take responsibility for learning the necessary business, marketing, and self-actualization personal development skills so that you can actually capitalize on your natural gifts and talents to inspire, entertain, and educate others. Right? Social media is gonna help with that. So my point is that take responsibility for your life, and the way you do that first and foremost is by diving into the research. The research is very important because life is very complicated, and what we normally do when we're in this stage where we're suffering, shit's not working, my stomach hurts, I don't know why, I feel foggy all the time, I have no energy, I'm addicted to video games and my phone, and I have no vision or direction, I have terrible habits. When we're in that place, it's very easy to start looking for quick fixes. What's the easiest, most effortless way that I can find that's going to alleviate my stress temporarily? So maybe you might find some Bitcoin. You have no money in your bank account, so you might find some Bitcoin investment scam or whatever where you think, oh, I'm going to learn how to trade stocks in this way, and then I'm going to quickly get a lot of money into my bank account without having to work on myself or develop myself. I'm just going to learn this one hack or this one trick, like drop shipping items or this kind of like e-commerce stuff where you're starting a business, but your business isn't actually providing value to society. You're just kind of like trying to exploit some temporary opportunity. And that's the thing with quick fixes, is that they're always temporary. They might work one time, but they don't work long term. Because since you're trying to shortcut the process of growth, you are skimping out on building your foundation. It's like you're living in a house, and your house is all wobbly, the floorboards are rotting, the roof is leaking, and you're like, how do I fix this leaky roof? It keeps dripping on my head. It's causing me suffering and headache. And then you don't want to rebuild the entire foundation of your house. Instead, you just want to find the quick, easy Band-Aid solution. Just kind of patch up that leak, and then I don't have to think about it anymore. But since your house is built on garbage foundation, that leak is going to appear somewhere else. Or even the Band-Aid's going to fall off and it's going to keep leaking. And you're going to be wasting so much energy looking for these quick fixes when what you really should have done is just started with the foundation. And the way you start building your foundation is by doing research. Did you know that if you're struggling, let's say, in your relationships or your dating life, right? Did you know that it's possible to just read 2 or 3 books about dating and relationships and have much, much better knowledge and understanding of how to interact with the opposite sex, how to be attractive? You're going to have much better knowledge than 99% of people, because virtually nobody reads books about dating and relationships. So if you can be the 1% that actually invests in your personal growth proactively, very quickly you're going to start to differentiate yourself from the crowd. So for me, in my experience, when I was in high school, I sucked at talking to girls. I was so awkward. I wasn't cool at all. I was interested in Dark Souls and chess and League of Legends. And that was about as far as my interests went. And that's not that cool when I'm talking to girls. But the way I solved this problem is I've discovered self-actualization, and one of my main mentors in the beginning, Leo Gura, he has a list of books. He's like, yeah, all you have to do is just read books about the subject that you're struggling with, and eventually you'll solve it, because you actually need to learn how it works first. So I was like, okay, I'm struggling with my dating and my relationships. Let me find a few books about dating and relationships, some of the best ones, like The Way of the Superior Man, Models by Mark Manson, and Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Those kinds of books, The Five Love Languages. Read those books, and then you're going to have a much better understanding of how relationships work for the rest of your life. You see, research is like actually fixing the foundation of your house. Now, for the rest of my life, I'm going to know how relationships work, how to be a good boyfriend, how to lead the relationship. This is for men, but for women, it's a little bit different, but it's the same principle here. When you research and learn, you fix the foundation. Now your roof's not leaking anymore. You don't have to worry about always going to the store buying new Band-Aids to go put up on your roof, and you're always worried about that the Band-Aid's gonna fall off. Because you fixed the fucking foundation. You invested the money and the time and the energy in the beginning to actually do it properly. You had to maybe uproot the entire foundation of your house and put in a new one. That costs time and energy and money. But once you fix it, you never have to worry about it ever again. So in like Maslow's hierarchy, once you fix your lower needs and you solve them properly by understanding how they work, now you're good for the rest of your life. Now you can move on to the higher needs that will actually fulfill and satisfy you. So it's the same with money, right? Many people are working a 9-to-5 job, and that's okay, but if you don't like your job, you're basically, you failed to invest 5 years learning how business and marketing works and how to provide value to people's lives so that you can be your own boss. And since you didn't build that foundation for yourself, now for the rest of your life, you're going to be a wage slave. And that sucks, because now you have to give up all of the time and energy that you could have been using to self-actualize and add genuine value to society by capitalizing on your natural gifts and talents. Now, you didn't invest in the beginning. You were too scared. You weren't enough of a visionary. You didn't believe in yourself enough. So you're going to pay the consequences for it for the rest of your life. Your roof is going to be leaking for the rest of your life, and it's going to drive you crazy, and you're going to have a shitty life. So in order to remedy this, we need to research topics such as money management, wealth creation. A great book about money management I have right here. It's very simple. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. They just teach you some of the basic principles. When I get my money, what do I do with it? How do I save it? How do I use it? Right? So that's kind of useful to know. So read a little bit about money management. And I'm not going to give you all the books now, obviously, but I'm just going to give you the topics. Learn about relationships and dating. Learn about success and self-actualization itself. So books like The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, or Psycho-Cybernetics, or Think and Grow Rich. Those kinds of books are awesome. Read about spirituality. Spirituality, it sounds like such an airy-fairy abstract topic. Like, what is spirituality? What the fuck is that? But what I've realized is that spirituality is actually just all of life. When you learn how to meditate, how to ground your energy in being and be present and disidentify from thoughts that are all vying for your attention, all your thoughts are distracting you, pulling you this way, pulling you that way, you're not able to stay centered. If you can learn something like that, that's going to benefit your entire life. I'm actually going to make another video that just goes all into the practical benefits of meditation. Because if you can just ground yourself in the moment and not be a slave to your mind, that positively impacts every single area of your life. Because every area of your life is governed by the way you use your mind and the way you manage your energy as well. And practice of meditation is just the practice of managing your mind and your energy. So if you can get better at that, you're getting better at all of life. It's like in the video game, when you level up the spirituality tree, it's really OP. It's really overpowered. That's like the broken tree in the game. The developers still haven't nerfed it, but you need to develop the spirituality tree because that's how you like break the game of life. And that's like the secret hack, like the cheat code. Figure out how to use your mind properly by meditating. So study that. Study politics as well. I think it's important to have some grounded foundational understanding of what is a government. Why do we have a government? What's the purpose of the government? What kinds of policies will maximize the common good for all people versus what kinds of policies won't? And how can you learn about politics not from a partisan perspective where I'm only studying conservative views or I'm only studying liberal views, but how can you actually zoom out and look, first of all, look at the history. So that's another topic to learn about is history. How did society even develop to get to where we are now? We started off as apes in many bands searching for food as hunter-gatherers, and then we created tribes, and then we created miniature empires, and then we created big empires, then we created city-states ruled by a king or a monarch, and then we created a nation-state ruled by some kind of democratic government, or not a democratic government, but some kind of government. And okay, so we actually have to learn, how did we get to where we're at now? Because a lot of people, their understanding of politics is piss poor. Just like how their understanding of relationships, money, spirituality is piss poor, and you can't really actualize your full potential, in my opinion, if you're not involved in some way and taking some kind of collective responsibility. I think participating in the government process, like voting and being an educated voter, I think that's important, because that's the system we've devised to govern ourselves. So you need to participate in it. You need to educate yourself, not read one book that justifies to you what you already think to be true, but how can I gain a broad perspective? How can I study some of the most well-respected political thinkers? And then how can I also just use my own intuition? How can I merge my understanding of politics with my understanding of consciousness and with my understanding of psychological growth and history and self-actualization? How can we merge these things together? Once you do that, it becomes pretty obvious how to vote and also how to participate in the politics. Also, just learn about science. I think science is so cool because it grounds your perspective. In spiritual communities, it's very easy to get very lost in this land of skipping around and fairies and my ideas, my idealistic perspective of how I want life to work. But what I love about science is that in a lot of cases, it's pretty grounded. It's kind of like you're exercising a different part of your brain, the part of your brain that is interested in being accurate, double checking yourself. What I just said, is that right? Can I verify what I just said? Or is what I'm saying based on how I feel, based on my own emotional attachments and biases? Or is it actually aligned with the truth? Now, that's a giant topic. Obviously, science is super complicated, and we'll talk about that later. But I think studying history is very important. Also, developmental psychology is a very important thing to study as well. Spiral dynamics, ego development theory. That's going to give you context, like that chain I showed you with all the levels. It's good to actually just learn what do all of these levels mean? What does it mean to be at level 4 or level 5 or level 6 or 7? What does that even mean? How does that work? How does the human psyche develop and grow? And what's so fucking amazing is that we've actually been able to map it out. We've studied it, and it's very predictable, actually. So you can check out my video on spiral dynamics if you want to learn more about that. Also, I'm going to be making a whole series about ego development theory, so stay tuned for that. I've been planning that for like 6 months, so I'm very excited for that. Also, study health and nutrition. What is healthy food? How do you find healthy food? This is also a very tricky area because it's very easy to get ideological in this area. Same with politics, spirituality. The main trap you want to avoid is being ideologically attached to one view. Whenever you get really attached to one way of thinking and you stop questioning yourself, you stop being skeptical, you think everybody else is wrong but you're 100% right, in that very scenario, the odds are you're probably wrong and you missed a giant portion of the truth. So study health. It's just important to eat healthy food and exercise, just know how to do that properly. I think studying business and marketing is key, especially where our economy is going. It's all online now, guys, so it's good to get online doing some kind of business marketing stuff. Also, emotional management is big. When I've experienced negative emotions, what do I do with them? And these are all topics that I will cover on this channel, and I have covered on this channel in detail. And really, if you want to understand what I'm doing here on this channel, is I have a vision for what is possible for you as a human being. It is possible for you to tap into dimensions of being that are never tapped into by your friends or your family or your teachers, the people you watch on YouTube or on Instagram. Nobody even knows that it's possible to tap in to extraordinary states of consciousness where you start to gain deep understanding of how existence actually works. You feel grounded and connected to being. You feel like you can appreciate life more fully. So an example I think of is like when you go to an art gallery and you don't really know too much about art, and you go through this art gallery, you look at the paintings, you don't really know what's going on. You're just like, okay, I like that painting, it's pretty nice. You can still appreciate the paintings, like, oh, that one's pretty nice too. But if you study art for like 20 years and you're passionate about art, and you go look at a painting, now you're going to see so much nuance and detail that just the average Joe would never be able to pick up on. If you look at a painting, you study art, let's say for 20 years, maybe you're very passionate about it, you'll know the history of the painting, the era that it was painted in, what that says about humanity, what it says about that time period, the kinds of painting styles that the artist used, and what it also reflects in the artist's personal life as well. There's so many degrees of depth and nuance that you can get out of one painting that the average Joe completely misses. And the exact same thing is true with life itself. You will get from life what you put into your life. So if you devote yourself to studying life deeply and being curious and interested in life, because it's fucking awesome, it's the only thing that's here to do. What else are you going to do? You're not going to study life? What's your other plan? Is there another option to do? Because as far as I can see, life is all that there is. It's right here. So let's figure out what's going on, how it works, how we can use our mind and our body and our energy in the most optimal way to maximize our personal enjoyment of life and also all people's personal enjoyment of life. Because I am one with all people. When you go to a restaurant and you get a really tasty meal and you're with your family, the first thing you do is you say, "Oh wow, this food's really good. Here, try some. It's so good," because intuitively you get joy from having other people taste your food and get joy for themselves. This is natural. We want all people to live as the best versions of themselves. And the way you do that is just by studying life, becoming, I was going to say a Renaissance man, which basically means like having a wide variety of views and perspectives, integrating them all together. Now, before we get into the implementation part, I wanted to talk a little bit about in what order do you study all these topics? Because this might seem very overwhelming. Adam, you're telling me to study politics, science, success, law of attraction, history, relationships. That seems like a big deal. That's going to take me years to do. Not to mention a lot of money and time invested. Well, first, just start in the order of relevance. What are you personally struggling with right now in your life? What kinds of books, what kinds of videos and information is calling you? What do you need to learn more about based on what your heart is pulling you towards? And just go learn that, basically. And continue that process. Be very intuitive in the way that you absorb information. And never stop learning. You're always going to be studying. You have the rest of your life to read and learn, and the internet makes it a lot easier for you. You can buy books online. You can research reviews. What are the best books in each field? If you just bought the best-selling book in each field that I just talked about and read it, you'd be a lot better educated than basically every single person, and you'll be able to build an amazing life for yourself from scratch. Okay, so now let's talk about implementation. So we have all this information in our mind. We did all the research. How do we implement now? So number 4 here is implementation. How do we actualize it? How do we make it real? So first step, number 1, is you need to have a long-term vision. Vision. That's one of my jobs here on this channel, is to give you the vision for what's possible for your life. This is like looking forward 10, 20 years in the future. Did you know it's possible to become a mystical sage where you are able to have prophetic dreams and you're able to feel other people's emotions and to heal people and to have deep understanding into how reality works? And just, the human potential is infinite. And we need that vision, that you need to have a personal vision for yourself. And my vision for you is, how can you just become a Renaissance man? Which is kind of like my vision for myself. How can I have such a deep understanding of how life works that's going to help me personally solve collective problems, whether that be education, healthcare, politics. It could be emotional problems that we have. So the vision that I'm helping you with on this channel is how to actualize your self-actualization needs, how to get to the highest stages of human development so that you can squeeze the full juice out of your life. That's what I'm passionate about. And that's what I'm helping you with. And your vision might be more personalized to you. So one thing that I do for myself sometimes is when I feel very inspired, I sit alone within a distraction-free environment. And I take out a pen and a paper and I just write down, what is the highest potential for my life? What does my soul long to do? A lot of these exercises I talk about in my Crystal Clear Purpose program. I give you a long list of journaling exercises. But I just sit down and I journal what would fulfill me the most. What kind of life do I want to live? Who do I want to be in this life? And I write it with as much detail and passion and love as I possibly can. Without worrying about my fears or my insecurities, I just visualize and I write it down. And then I review it as well once a week or every night, ideally, especially in the beginning. Review it, your vision, constantly. That's going to keep you inspired. That's going to keep you motivated. And also watching videos like the videos that I make, for example, videos about these topics, reading and stuff, that's going to keep you inspired. Because this is really a long-term process. Self-actualization is a lifelong commitment. You're going to be doing this for the rest of your life until you die. And some people might say, well, Adam, that seems like a lot of effort to constantly be growing myself and doing all this meditation and maybe even psychedelics. That seems dangerous, right? That seems like so much effort. Isn't it better to just kind of do what my friends are doing or what my parents want me to do and just kind of coast through life on autopilot? That seems like less effort. But you don't realize that when you coast through life with a bare minimum mentality, then you're going to have a bare minimum life that's filled with suffering and dysfunction. So when I first started doing self-actualization, my dad would always ask me, Adam, isn't it okay for a man just to live like an average life? Just to be like an average Joe, maybe he's not a business tycoon, or maybe he's just like a regular guy. Maybe he doesn't meditate, but can you still be happy? And to be honest, if you're not meditating and you're not growing yourself spiritually, the answer is no. You can't be happy, because you need to understand that if you're not meditating, what you're going to get as the default is an untamed mind that is constantly pulling you towards cravings that aren't healthy for you and away from all kinds of unrealistic fears. You're going to be anxious and afraid. You're not going to be able to control your mind. Your mind is going to be underdeveloped and you're going to suffer constantly because of it. You can't only just live a mediocre life and just have a little bit of happiness. And you still live, a simple life. I'm a simple man, live a simple life. Yeah, you can live a simple life, but also you need to be a meditation master if you want to live a simple life excellently. You want to actually live a simple life properly? That's going to require tons of meditation and spiritual growth and self-actualization. And also think about it like this. The human body is so rare. Think about how much energy and effort and time has been put in to engineer your body from scratch. This is the most advanced technology, the most advanced vehicle that has ever existed. And you got one. It's right here. It's free. You got that's awesome. Many people are like, I don't have enough money to buy a nice car. Don't worry about it. You already have the most valuable vehicle that exists. It's called the human body. It's right here. So why not use it to explore life and to get the most out of your life? To interact with life fully. Not just tickling the surface of life. It's like, I'm a simple man. I do simple things. I just tickle the surface of life. Yeah, once in a while I have a coffee, and then I go watch Netflix, and then I scroll on my phone, and whatever, so just average life. That's like if I have a Ferrari, the nicest possible car, the brand new Ferrari, and I don't even take it off the driveway. I just look at it. I just polish it. Just look at it. I never drive it. I just look at it. You can't enjoy it. See? So in Tibetan Buddhism, they have this concept of the precious human birth. You got to use it. Otherwise, you're wasting the precious human birth. All right. So now that you have the long-term vision, now's a great time to start to implement some basic habits and daily actions. So now that we have the long-term vision of what I want 10, 20 years from now, now we need to be able to actually boil that down into practical, everyday action steps. So, okay, so I want to be a non-dual sage and I want to fuck all of existence to smithereens in every single domain. Okay, awesome. How do I make that real? What do I do on a daily basis? Again, I talk about this in my program, but it's not a sales video for my program. I'm actually trying to explain what to do. So what you want to do basically is take these habits, and so take your vision and boil it down into daily action steps. So for me, for example, I need to read every day. I need to go to the gym every day because that makes me feel strong and makes my body healthy. I need to meditate every day. I need to go on meditation retreats a few times a year. I need to run my business. I need to be creative. I need to contemplate life and give myself alone time. And that's an actual tangible step. I can put that in my calendar. Journal every day. Meditate every day. Exercise every day. And these are habits. And I talked about in my last video how to stay consistent with your habits and actually how to install a habit from scratch. So you can check out that video if you're interested in that. And also, let's talk about mastery. This is so important. Like I was talking about in the beginning, you're like a video game character and you need to invest skills into the skill tree that's going to yield you the most results. When you get to the top of the skill tree, this is a perfect place to draw out a skill tree. So in video games, you see there's like these skill trees where you can put points into the skill and then you move on to the next skill. And then as you get more points and more experience, you can move on to this skill, you move on to this skill, and then finally when you get to like level 100, at the top of the tree, this skill here, that's like the best skill. It completely breaks the game and makes your character so strong. And it takes a long time to get to the top of the tree, but when you do get to the top of the tree and you actually invest in that skill, that's where all of your hard work pays off. And now you're a master in let's say, this is the skill tree of archery. So yeah, the first skill in the archery tree is like, how to shoot an arrow a little bit faster. And then the next one is your arrows do a little bit more damage. But then when you get to the top, it's like you shoot 10 arrows at once and they all explode. So this is the mastery curve. This is the reason why this is so addictive and video games can suck years of people's lives is because this is what you should be doing in real life. You should be investing points into the skill trees. So just an example from my life, for example, some of my skill trees that I invest a lot in is meditation, because I told you, is the broken tree, right? You want to invest a lot in there. I also invest a lot in speaking as well, because that's my build. Like I told you in the beginning, my class is really good at understanding abstract topics and explaining them. So since that's my build, that's my class, I just invest in that tree. So I invest in my explaining skills, which I do constantly. I make videos and I talk to people and my girlfriend and I talk to myself. I explain things. Also, I invest a lot in my reading and understanding as well. When you read 1 or 2 books, it's like, oh, this is pretty cool. But when you read 200 books, it's like, holy fuck, now I'm actually starting to see the deep patterns of life. I'm starting to distill the principles. I'm starting to build for myself a life philosophy that's actually grounded, is based in the opinions and experiences of experts and sages and masters. Many people's life philosophy comes from 2 books. But what if your life philosophy came from 300 or 500 books? That's how you build an amazing life. And that's what I'm interested in. So the mastery process is just practicing every day deliberately, on purpose. And the thing about the mastery process is you suck in the beginning. Before you invest in the archery tree, your arrows do no damage. But as you keep using the archery skill, you gain experience, you can put some points into the tree, and then it starts to pay off towards the top. After you invest 10,000 hours into your domain of expertise, now you can add genuine value to society. People will pay you money to help them because you're a master now. And a great tip for implementation, this is like a bonus tip, is whenever you're starting to do something new, I recommend to make it natural, make it effortless. Don't make it a big deal. This was something that tripped me up a lot. When I would do personal development, I thought it was like the most important thing in the world, because it is, but I would make it too important, where I would like be walking on eggshells because I would be so afraid. Like, what if I miss my meditation? Or what if I miss my day at the gym? Or what if I do this thing wrong? So I was like always worried about and I needed everything to be perfect. A great shortcut and a great hack for making your implementation a lot easier is whenever you're implementing a new habit or a new skill or anything like that, I just wrote implementation again. What you want to do as a bonus tip is just make it natural. Make it like, it's not really a big deal. Like, yeah, I'm reading a bunch of books. Okay. That's just naturally what I do. Or yeah, I'm meditating every day. Yep, that just makes logical sense. Why would I not meditate every day? I need to work on my mind. I need to know how to do it properly. So I'm going to read books about meditation and I'm going to implement it. I'm going to learn what to do. And it might take years, but I'm going to figure it out. And yeah, so you just make it natural. You just do it. It's not a big deal. So that's a bonus tip. And let me just go over some exercises that you can start to implement, some great habits to implement, is meditation, body work as well, which I talk about in my coaching program. Weightlifting is a great one. Healthy food, doing creative work, yoga, psychedelics, breath work, journaling. These are all great things you can start to implement. All right, guys, this was how to build an amazing life from scratch. So yes, it might seem like a lot of information, like a lot of work, but again, there's nothing else here that you're doing in life. Nothing else is more important than figuring out how to use your natural gifts and talents to inspire, entertain, and educate others, and also how to gain a full experience of life where you're connected to the moment. You know, when you go to a beach in a tropical vacation destination and all of your senses are just completely overwhelmed with how beautiful it is. The blue water, the white sand, the green lush trees, there's monkeys swinging in the vines, there's butterflies. It's like the tropical paradise. In that place, you feel fully engaged in life. You feel like life is fucking beautiful. Holy shit, this is amazing, right? But how can we gain that experience all the time, even when it's shitty and cold and you live in Canada and your stomach hurts because you have a stomach ache? Or how can you gain a full experience of life, that feeling of being on the beach in a tropical destination? How can you get that feeling all the time when you're working, when you're meditating, when you're talking to your friends, when you're partying, when you're just hanging out and chilling? Even if you're not on a beach, even if you're just in your everyday life. it's possible to get that feeling, and that's what I want to show you how to do here on this channel. So if you enjoyed this video, I recommend subscribing to the channel because I'm going to be making new videos like this every single week. I am super passionate about helping you to grow and expand into the highest version of yourself, and I'm going to be giving you practical tips and advice for how to practically do online business and marketing, how to practically have an awesome relationship, or how to have awesome sex. I'm gonna have my girlfriend on the channel, and we're gonna talk about relationships, how to be creative. And also, I wanna talk a lot about psychology, how to understand how does the human mind work? How does it trap itself? How does the human mind evolve as well? How does it develop through the developmental stages? And how can we use that to actually impact the world? How to improve the education system or the healthcare or etc. There's all kinds of practical impacts that we can have on the world. And what I want to do is help you to transform yourself into the version of yourself that has enough understanding of life and enough experience from doing the right practices to really embody your full potential and be who you came here to be. So that's what I'm interested in doing. If you want to get a head start on maxing out the skill tree of meditation, the most broken tree, you can click the first link in the description. I made a free training for how to do Vipassana meditation. It's one of my favorite meditation practices. I've been doing it for years, and it has completely changed the way that I interact with all experience. So I feel much more calm, relaxed, grounded, and I feel like life is more beautiful because of doing this practice. So I made a free training. You can click the first link in the description to get that. Also, that'll subscribe you to my email list where I send out a weekly newsletter with insights like this about self-actualization, how to become the best version of yourself, habits, psychology, life purpose, that kind of stuff. So check that out. And otherwise, I'm looking forward for you to join me on this journey because I'm super excited about all the new stuff that's coming out, and I'll see you in the next one.